This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for How to Super Age with Elise Marie Collins. And Elise, it's been about a month since we've been together, but I know you have another exceptional guest on today. So do you want to introduce us?
Yeah, I'm here with Abby Beale, Marks Beale, and she is a homeopath, and she's got a lot of great information for us today. She's written a book, The Homeopathy Primer. She goes into such detail in this book. And homeopathy is something I've always used, I think, since I was about in my 20s. I know a little bit about it, but it's not something I've gone into depth with. And I think it's one of those modalities that really can enhance our aging process. It can enhance family care because a lot of the things in her book, she used homeopathy when she was a mom. And I know I did a little bit for my son, but just I never saw a homeopath, but I know some of my friends took their children to homeopaths. I love homeopathy and use a couple of remedies that we'll probably talk about in the show. But right now, I'm going to turn it over to Abby so she can introduce herself and how she got into homeopathy and maybe just tell us a little bit about her background. So take it away, Abby.
So thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate having the opportunity to share homeopathy with your audience. So thank you. So I do think, and it says it even on my website, that I think homeopathy is the coolest medicine on the planet, because I do, because it's not toxic. There's no chemicals. Nobody has major side effects that like the chemical world does. And it really can work very efficiently and effectively to a point where someone who may have a chronic symptom, if they took the right remedies over a certain period of time, that symptom can go away. If you have hay fever or migraines or IBS even, it's kind of amazing how it doesn't just cover up the symptom to make you feel better, but it can help you to feel better like forever. And so, it takes some skill. It's not a quick thing. I think being a homeopath is probably a pretty challenging profession, but I absolutely love it. It's like putting puzzle pieces of someone's life together and trying to match it, to the right homeopathic remedy.
I
Um,
love I love that analogy, puzzle pieces, because it's so different than the Western mindset, the Western modalities. And I believe we are like puzzle pieces. That's something we talk a lot about on the show. We haven't used that verbiage, but I may take it from you and
you can.
attribute it to you. But I've studied a lot in Ayurveda and yoga, and that is so much more of a puzzle piece modality. And I think what I love about homeopathy, and maybe you can speak to this, is there's a lot more subtlety. Like the puzzles, it's a big puzzle. There's so many little intricate things we have to put in place. So how can it help us age really, in a different way? And I'm so happy that you're so enthusiastic about it.
So if I can, I just want to kind of back up. You had asked me about how I got into homeopathy, which I think will also help your listeners to understand the uniqueness of homeopathy. And it goes with my son, who, when he was 9 months old, long time ago, this is how I got introduced to homeopathy. He had ear infection after ear infection after ear infection, antibiotic after antibiotic. After about 6 or 7 doses over 6 or 7 months of antibiotics, they wanted to put tubes in. And as a new mom, I thought, yeah, I don't think I want to go that route if I don't have to. So I went looking for other options. That's my motto. There's got to be a better way. And so I went looking and found my mom, actually, who got into natural health late in life. I didn't grow up with a homeopathy at all. Said, have you tried a homeopath? And I said, homo what? Some gay guy doing some medicine. I don't know what it was. And no, she said, no, a homeopath. And this was in the 90s. And so what I was doing is I was looking at the yellow pages. There was no internet, and found one not too far away, about an hour away, I'd say, and went to this person. My son was maybe 17 months old, not that verbal, right? So you couldn't ask him, so what does it feel like, that ear infection? And, how much does this hurt or does that hurt or whatever? But we spent 90 minutes together, myself, my son, and this homeopath. He asked all kinds of questions, all the pieces of my life, of my son's life puzzle, between, the ear infection, what brought it on, what makes it better, what makes it worse, what's his attitude like, what kind of food does he like, how does he sleep, how does he poop? I mean, like everything. And I was like, you want to know all this stuff for an ear infection? I'm like, all right, whatever. And then he gave him a couple of pellets, which was the remedy, whatever the remedy was at the time, I had no idea. Gave him some pellets and his ear infection went away and he never got another one. And it was one of those like, huh, what's that all about? That was really interesting. And then he got sick again a couple of months later because kids get sick. And I went back to the homeopath, gave him a couple more little pellets, and he got better. And I was like, wow, I got to learn about this. And so that was how I got started. And that was in the mid 90s. And so I studied and finally became a nationally certified classical homeopath. And I absolutely love the whole idea of a person's puzzle, all the pieces of their life put together. So I would have somebody who's older. So you talk about aging. I sometimes get people that come that are 70, 80 years old, never seen a homeopath before. And so now we're trying to take all the pieces of their life puzzle versus like a 10-year-old that might come in, very different story, but to find out what are their propensities? What is it? Do they always have sinus infections? Do they have, hay fever? Or do they always get, diarrhea on a full moon or something? All those little intricacies that make a person unique. And what it can do is just make that person's symptoms, the things that are bothering them, reduce or even go away with good homeopathic care. So it's like, I know we're all going to die. I totally know that. But when I go, my choice, if I had a choice, is to be as healthy as I possibly can until like the week before I die. If I'm like, totally out of it the week before I die, great, But up to that point, I want to be fine. I want to be good. I want to be feeling healthy for the most part. I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be suffering if I don't have to. And so I do see homeopathy as one option for helping that goal. That's one of my goals. So
Wow.
I hope that helps.
Oh, that was great. And
Mm.
I wonder too, how does it, there's so many details about homeopathy I want to know about, but how does it help with our mental health? Because I think that's also important with aging. Can it help your mental health?
It can. I'm actually kind of curious myself because there are so many more people that have had diagnoses of dementia and Alzheimer's and even just typical memory loss that they don't know why, but they may not have a disease per se. And so it can sharpen the mind if we can kind of put the body back into balance. So sometimes people might come with a mental issue, but we can also work with the other physical things as well, which can help the mental state as well. So it's definitely a study that I'm doing on dementia in my own practice with homeopathy, because I really believe that there's got to be things to help the brain not go downhill as quickly as it has.
Well,
Um, so
don't you think that so many of us in the Western world here, our diet is not good to begin with. And there are certain foods, if you really think about it personally, that change your cognitive thinking. Okay. I know that I I strive for sugar all the time. Um, and I only allow myself to have sugar in the morning because if I eat it the rest of the day, I am totally fog brain. In the morning, I can sort of eat it. It's going to upset me in other ways, but not make me foggy. If I go out for dinner and share dessert with my husband, let me tell you, I am foggy brain from that point until I wake up the next morning. So I think there's something that in the natural substances of the world that sort of keep us, more coherent, more alive. And they're better for our bodies as well.
Yeah, I love your self-observation. Not everyone is, and so many times when I talk to people about their lifestyle, in addition to the symptoms that they have, it could be I do eat a lot of sugar, or I eat gluten, I eat dairy, I eat whatever the thing is, but they may not think that it's a problem. But when I say to them, where do you think that bloat is coming from? You eat stuff and you feel bloated, you're a little constipated, and they happen to like pasta, they eat some pizza, and it's kind of like, let's try an experiment. Let's just try to go off gluten for 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, and just see what happens. And, I would say more than half of the time they realize there's an issue with that thing, whatever it is. It could be sugar, could be dairy, could be gluten, whatever it is. So it's not always homeopathy, but it's the holistic view of a person. And with memory, you may have heard more about like lion's mane and NSM. There are supplements, naturopathic, not homeopathic. Naturopathic is because there's a substance in it that you're taking, so it's like a vitamin supplement that are also resveratrol, for the brain. Those are things that are also warranted in addition to taking remedies, changing your lifestyle, exercise, good sleep, hydration. Ask somebody how much they drink. Water, not coffee, not tea, not alcohol, not nothing, no juice, just water. And so many people, I have a glass or two a day, and you're going, let's work on that first. You definitely have to have more water in your body because otherwise things are not going to flush out, and our bodies are made of like 70% water, and you need to replenish it, especially if you drink caffeine, because caffeine will take it out. So I mean, I do homeopathy. I talk about homeopathic remedies, but I also talk about lifestyle. And I just make suggestion, you know? Yeah.
So could you speak to what exactly is homeo, homeopathy? There we go. Homeopathy for our listeners. And you guys can repeat after me, homeopathy, because it does uh,
I know
gets
some people, yeah, it's not an easy word, but once you get it, usually you get it. So keep trying, keep trying.
yeah, it's I'm still waking up this morning, so earlier I'm on the West Coast. So
Right.
tell us about how it works because you mentioned when you were speaking, you mentioned naturopaths, naturopathic medicine, homeopathic medicine.
Mhm.
And I don't want people to get confused on these different forms of medicine because a lot of our listeners are, just opening their awareness to different ways to be healthy and age. So just give us a little bit on how homeopathy works.
So homeopathy is, and I'm just going to pull up, let me see if I can pull this up. Hold on. I have a kit right here. This is a homeopathic kit. Whoop, if you can see it, this is a Helios 36 remedy kit is what it
And
is.
if you're listening audio, she has a little box with a bunch of remedies, those little sugar pills you're talking about. So that looked cool.
Yeah.
Little white pills, right? That are
Bias. Yeah.
right. So there are 36 remedies in this kit. All of these remedies look the same and they taste the same, but they're all very different. So homeopathy is made, it's energy medicine, not chemical or physical. So when you talk about a naturopath, like a vitamin C, echinacea, vitamin D, all of that is naturopathic because there's a physical substance that you would ingest. Homeopathy is absorbed through the mucous membranes. And so these little sugar pills have a substance that has been highly diluted, dropped onto these pellets, which is the delivery method that you put under your tongue to be absorbed. And they all taste great. That's why my son loved this when he was 17. He's the kind of kid you give him like any kind of medicine, you'd have to force it down and then he'd throw it up. I mean, it was just like beautiful. It's like, dude, we're never going to fix you. And then we found homeopathy. It's like, this is good stuff because he doesn't throw it up and it's enjoyable to take. And so let's say you want to take, all right, so you're wanting to, I don't know, deal with your insomnia, let's just say. Okay, that happens a lot. We're thinking a lot, we're having a hard time sleeping, maybe we have some heart palpitations, maybe a little diarrhea, just kind of just stimulated, very stimulated, like you had a lot of coffee. So there's a remedy called Cafe Cruda that is made from coffee. And so basically how it's made, can I go into this? It'll take like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I was
okay.
like, yeah, great.
So imagine for a moment in front of us, all right, laid out in front of us are 30 cups of water that are filled 99% full with mostly water, maybe a little bit of like grain alcohol or a solvent just to keep it fresh, okay? 99% full. And at the beginning, we have a cup of coffee. So, and a dropper. So we take that cup of coffee and a dropper and we put it in a drop of coffee into that first cup. Now it's 100% full. It was 99%. Now it's 100%. What we do is we cover the cup and we pound it hard 10 times to activate the substance in the water. And that's called a 1 centesimal or 1 C. Then we take one drop of that. So we're done with the coffee. We don't touch that anymore. 1 drop of that water, put it into the next cup, cup number 2. Now that cup is full. We pound that 10 times. That's a 2C potency. We take 1 drop of that 2C, put it into the next cup. You follow me as we do this?
Yep.
You do it 10 times, you get to 3C. When you go into a health food store, depending on where you are, or you look online and you look up remedies that typically, and these little remedies are 30C potency. Okay, so do you see how there's no coffee technically left into the water, but it's that energizing substance that kept it going. And so these remedies are made 30C. The water's been dropped on here. It basically tastes like water, but they are they're called nanoparticles of energy that are still there. In my practice, I use not just 30C, but I use 200C, 1000C, which is 1M, and sometimes 10M or 50M. So not that that should be for the general public, but anyone can use a 30C and it's safe to do.
Yeah,
Did that make sense?
that was a
perfecting
great.
how to explain this because I know it's like, what?
No, that made sense to me. I always thought of homeopathy as a diluted substance, and it was almost like the opposite of what, like you were speaking about insomnia, and you think coffee would be the last thing you want to feed to an insomniac, but in this case, it's a diluted stimulation. So
Energetic. It's the energetic
energetic.
form.
Yeah, and it's counterintuitive in some way. So that always intrigued me because, yeah, it sounds intriguing. And the way you described it, that's the best explanation I've ever heard. I just heard
Oh,
diluted.
I try. I really do. I really want, it's my goal in life to educate people so they're not afraid of it and that they're willing to go for it, you know?
I think you're good at it. I don't know if Karen has any more questions about that explanation. Did that make
Well,
sense?
so
Mm.
it is a form, though, of a natural healing, right?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
I was just reading, I did a Google search before you started talking, and it talks about that they're the same, but they're different.
What's same and what's
That,
different?
that the natural remedy and homeopathic remedies, they're similar but different. And I didn't quite, and there's only like 2 lines in this Google search. So is it the same as a natural remedy?
So homeopathy is considered a natural remedy,
Okay.
but it is not a naturopathic.
Okay.
Okay, naturopathic is that it is like a supplement, a vitamin or an herb, which has a substance in it. So you have a material substance. It hasn't been diluted. It's just put into a capsule or a pill that you take with water. Homeopathy, you don't take with water. You just put it inside of your mouth and let your mouth dissolve it.
Got it.
And so it's a very different concept. It's also not processed through the liver, or you don't digest it at all. It has nothing to do with digestion, whereas all of naturopathic things you do have to digest.
Got it. Thank you
They're
for the
valuable.
explanation.
They're valuable, but
Yeah.
they're different.
Yeah.
I hope that clarified it.
No, it
Yeah.
did. It did.
Okay.
I think that really helped people to make sense of it, and just to reiterate, herbs, supplements, those are naturopathic, or they're all natural remedies under that umbrella. But then
Right.
homeopathy has this, it's like it's very subtle.
Mm.
And I know sometimes, I even myself, who's been using homeopathy for 3 decades or more and into natural remedies, I still think like, how exactly does that work? There's a part of my brain, the logical brain, that's like, no, that's not right. Maybe, maybe other listeners, I'm sure they're having similar questions. Maybe give us a couple stories about how homeopathy, some, I don't want to say miracle, because that's kind of, maybe you do have miracle healings, but some of the healings you've done that have been very remarkable, because I think that will land more than, and you talked about your son, like that was an amazing story, but do you have any clients you've worked with that had incredible healings that would kind of land this idea that how could that, like, those 30 cups of coffee, how does that work exactly?
So, I mean, I would not be in this practice of homeopathic medicine if I wasn't seeing positive results. Let's put it that way, regularly. Sometimes it feels like a miracle. Sometimes it's just, oh, that's expected, from a remedy. But even like, so for example, and I really want to focus on something that people can do for themselves. Yes, they can go to a homeopath if they wanted to, but they can learn how to use homeopathic medicine on their own. Right now, it's still available over the counter. You can buy a kit and do it at home. My book that came out, Homeopathy Primer, is meant as a study guide for people to learn how to use it. There's like 100 comparison charts and whatever in there. And so let me give an example right now, like going on vacation with my family last summer. There was like, I always bring a kit with me because you never know what happens. And I was on duty a lot of the time because we had one person who burned their hand on a tea kettle. They grabbed the thing and it was hot and it's like, oh, wow. So it was really burning. So there was a remedy that was given to them called cantharis, which is for burns. It's made from a Spanish fly. You don't have to know what it's made from, but it was given to them every 15 minutes for about an hour, and then again another hour later, another hour later. And so as you're looking, you'd think that there would be blisters and nasty things. Within a few hours, you look at his hand, it's like you could hardly see where it was. It was like, wow, that was amazing. Or someone who gets a bee sting, like for me, I went to get the mail one day, a bee stung me right when I was actually finishing the book, The Secret Life of Bees. It was so weird how that happened. I'd never been stung before. On the last chapter, went out to get the mail, got stung by a bee. I was like, this does not go past my head. But it was painful. Oh my gosh, if anyone's ever been, stung by a bee. So I immediately went and got a remedy called Apis mellifica. It's made from a bee stinger. And so homeopathy is like cures like. So if it's made from a bee stinger and you have a bee sting, it could help with with that problem. So I took it every 15 minutes for an hour when it was that painful. And after the hour, it was less swollen. It was not stinging. It wasn't like horrible. It was sore, but it wasn't horrible. And so Apis is an important remedy for that. It's also for mosquito bites, that kind of thing. Another remedy used on vacation, arnica. Arnica, I love that medicine. It's like the gateway drug into homeopathy. A lot of people will try arnica, which is great. Internally, the little pellets. There's also a cream you can put on externally for any kind of bumps or bruises. So here's another story of my other son. We're in Walmart when he was about 3 years old. He's, how they walk behind, you're holding the cart and they're like right under you. And he fell and hit his head on the metal part of the cart. And so immediately you start seeing the egg coming up and he's crying and he's all upset. And we're in the store and I'm like, oh man, okay. So we brought him, we sat him down past the cash registers. He was crying. And in my pocketbook, I happened to carry arnica because with kids, it's a really good remedy to have in your pocketbook. So I gave him a couple pellets. He was still crying. And about less than 7 minutes later, he starts calming down. But what's more interesting to me was that egg that was coming out was going back into his head. And even my husband was looking at him like, wow. It was amazing. That to me was amazing. So, arnica is great. I used it after I had a C-section. I didn't need painkillers. I was sore, but I wasn't in pain. And so I used it to heal from that and any other operation that I've had since. So there's some really great, things that people can do at home with a kit, with a good book, and they can learn how to do it for themselves when they go traveling or just for daily life.
So what is actually in the kit? Because am I going to have the majority of things that I need in there, and how do I replenish them?
Yeah. So if you took this kit, right, 36 remedies, they last quite a while. Excuse me. In this case, I think this kit is just one pellet is a dose. Sometimes I say 2 pellets is a dose. You can, this will last a long time, a long, long time. And they don't expire per se, even though it says it does. As long as you keep it in a cool, dry place, you're fine. So the question was, sorry, how long does it last and how do you get refills?
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
let's say there's one that we're using more regularly,
Yeah,
and
right.
now I want to refill it.
So you may not, I'm not sure if Helios has refill kits. I'll have to look, but you can always go on right now. You can go on Amazon and you can buy a blue tube. They're called blue tubes from Boiron, Boiron. They're like the premier provider of homeopathic remedies over the counter for the consumer. And you can get that as a 30C and you can add it into your kit if you needed to, or just carry the vial with you. So you can always get more. It just may not be fitting into that vial per se.
Is there anything in particular that helps with leg cramping?
Yes.
Homeopathic. And the reason I'm asking is that um, my husband has developed horrible, horrible leg cramps, and medication is not even touching it. They told him to drink tonic water. I thought this was not good for him. He was in the bathroom all night long because tonic
Oh.
water just wanted to go through him.
Mhm.
And this morning he said, there's got to be something. He said, I'll even hang upside down and do an exercise if I have to.
Oh, can milk that for all it's worth.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, so there is so basically there are remedies for almost everything. With the way you look at it though is kind of trying to figure out if there is a uniqueness to it. It's like it could be whenever he starts walking, or it could be when he's sitting too long, or it could be when he's sleeping. But for the most part, when you say leg cramps, immediately there's a remedy that comes up called MagPhos. It's magnesium phosphoricum. And it comes, the easiest thing to do is to buy it as a cell salt, CELL, a cell salt, which is just a low potency homeopathic remedy that you take for cramps. I give it for menstrual cramps, for people with leg cramps, but I also suggest that they do take a magnesium naturopathic supplement as well, because the body is obviously depleted of magnesium. Magnesium relaxes all of the tissue in the body. And so it can help with that kind of a problem. And then also hydration. How much is he drinking? Because you need to be drinking enough water. So those that immediately when you said leg cramps, okay, that. And then the last, I had a study group this morning. I run study groups, and this one of the participants, I always ask them, tell us what you've been doing, what remedies you've been giving. And a woman was sharing how she had put it's called Highlands Leg Cramp or Highlands Leg
Yes.
Cramp.
Yep.
Highlands is a company that sells cell salts in combination for leg cramps, and it's just a game changer. Where she gave it to her mother, who was just like all cramped up at night, and gave her this Highlands preparation, and within 3 or 4 minutes, she was just like calm and relaxed. So there are some really great remedies out there, and people can try them with no ill effect. It's not like you're going to take a prednisone or a painkiller and it's going to be horrible for you. This is
Right.
like, you try it. If it doesn't work, then find something else. And it's not expensive, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And
Me
I think
too.
leg cramps are huge. Yeah, so you'll have to report back, Kieran.
I will, absolutely.
Yes, me too. Please let me know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, yeah, leg cramps are huge as a yoga teacher, and I serve as a yoga teacher all ages, but my older students have always for decades complained about leg cramps and family members also. So I know that's a big one. I was also going to mention to our listeners, and maybe you can elaborate on this, that arnica is often used for arthritis as well and joint pain. And I also have had students that use it, same thing, topically and taking the little pellets under the tongue. Is there anything else you want to add about arthritis? Because that's another one that many of us have the arthritis is a big one for aging.
Yeah, so arnica is great for, I'm not specifically sure necessarily for arthritis, but it's great for overexertion. Like if you're gardening too long, snow shoveling, a lot, and you're just overexerted yourself and you're sore, arnica would be great for that. There are certainly remedies specific to arthritis, but if there were 5 people in front of us, 10 people in front of us and said, tell us about your arthritis, they'd be a little bit different. Some are better with cold, some are better with warm, some better movement, some better not moving. And so that's the pieces of their puzzle, right? To come up with the correct remedy. And that's usually a more chronic thing. But I will share there's a remedy called Rust Toxicodendron. It's actually made from poison ivy. But a lot of people like that remedy for arthritis. But I don't want people to just go get it and say, oh, Russ talks for arthritis, because it may not be your type of arthritis, right?
Yeah. And I know
Yeah,
they're different kinds of arthritis.
Yes.
There's
right.
osteoarthritis, what's the other one? The swelling one, rheumatoid, rheumatoid
Yep.
arthritis. And that's in the medical, I mean, that's in the Western medical, but I'm sure homeopathy differentiates in a much more subtle way. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
important. And I do have a question before I forget. It
Mhm.
leads me to, do you do online consultations?
Yes, a lot of homeopaths are doing it now out of default with COVID. In order for us to continue practicing and helping people, we've had to move to an online platform, definitely. So I would say most are offering that option, if they don't have an easy practice close by. So yes, I do all the time now. Yes.
That's great because, as you said, some of the things we can carry that kit, we can read your book and say the name of your book again.
Homeopathy Primer. I actually have a copy here. People can see it.
Perfect. Yeah, she's holding it up at the
Love that.
title. You can
You can't
search
see it real
that.
well, but yeah,
Yeah,
it
there
looks
we
like
go.
that.
Yeah.
It's got pretty
And
colors
that's,
on the front.
yeah, great details. And I love that you could bring it, like you mentioned, on vacation with your family. You could bring the book, you can bring your kit. And that's actually sometimes a good time to play with things like that because we have more time to like read something
Yeah, exactly.
longer. And
Mhm.
it's fact filled. Let's just say that. It's got a
Yeah.
lot in there, but you
Mhm.
could experiment if you want to work on it yourself. But then someone might need a little more guidance. So I'm glad that you're doing those online consultations. Where are you located, by the way, in case anyone is listening from your area?
So I'm right here in a Zoom box. No, just kidding.
Oh, magic. Come to the Zoom box.
So I have a physical office in Northampton, Massachusetts, and I live in Connecticut. So depending on what day it is, I'll be either in Massachusetts or Connecticut. But I will say there are other homeopaths in this country, and they can be found. There's two websites. One is the Council for Homeopathic Certification. These are people like me that have gotten this higher level certification. And another one is the North American Society of Homeopaths. There's these people who have been vetted and listed there. So I would consider going there and seeing maybe there's someone close to you that you could even visit in person.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's excellent. Yeah. And some people might prefer in person, some might just really resonate with what you're saying and enjoy that online. So I appreciate that you're sharing both ways to connect with a homie
Abby,
Homeopath.
Abby, do you find that primary care doctors tend to ignore homeopathic medicine and are, hey, they just came up with this great drug and I'm going to write you a prescription for it instead?
Well, so medical doctors are not trained in homeopathy for the most part. There is a very small group of people who are medical doctors and homeopaths. They're through the American Institute of Homeopathy. That's another place people could go to look for a homeopath. There aren't that many in the country, but they are there. So I think more and more now, people will go to their doctor once in a while and say, I'm thinking about trying a homeopathic remedy. And the response could be pretty much one of three things. One is, that's awesome, go for it, why not? The second would be, well, I really don't know too much about it, but whatever you want to do is fine. And then the third will be, don't you dare go near that stuff. So it really, I think we all have to be our own advocates right now. If we feel strongly about something, don't rely on your doctor to know everything about everything. They know what they know about what they need to know, but they don't know about all the modalities. They don't know about acupuncture, chiropractic. Sorry to say, they hardly know about nutrition. And
Oh,
and if they could just learn nutrition, that would be so helpful for humanity. And so I think a lot of them are starting to say, well, if I give you an antibiotic, I'll not let you. I will prescribe a probiotic. Brilliant. Let them do that. So the antibiotic isn't destroying the microbiome completely. You're going to put back some of the good guys with some probiotic. So I don't trust the medical doctors are really going to know much unless they've been trained, which not many have.
yeah,
Thank you
100%.
for that because I know that a lot of our listeners, will say, well, this is great information. Oh, but I went to my doctor and I mentioned it to my doctor, and either my doctor said, do whatever you want, which for a lot of us, that that makes us feel like we're doing the wrong thing. Um, I'm on the other hand, when my husband went to the doctor and he said, try the tonic water, it was like, oh, I love this idea. You know, you're
Yeah.
not giving us prescription. When I
Hmm.
called the doctor this morning and said that tonic water made him worse, he said, well, I'm not sure the tonic water made him worse, but obviously it's not working. So
Right.
don't spend
You
your
got to
money
try
on it.
stuff.
Try
Yeah.
something else. And I
Yeah.
love the fact that he said, you know, go research it, try something else. So
Yeah, because he doesn't have all the time in the world. So keep in mind that a medical doctor, they have a toolbox, and their toolbox is a great toolbox sometimes when it has pharmaceutical medicine, it has surgery, and it has testing. Those are the three things that medical doctors are great for. But when you want to get nutritional advice, you want to get, supplements, you go to a naturopath. If you want homeopathic medicine, you go to a homeopath. If you want acupuncture for, your energy pattern, you go for acupuncture. I mean, everyone's got their box,
yeah,
and so just know when you go to your medical doctor, their box is their box and my box is my box.
yes,
So
exactly.
yeah.
And what I love about homeopathy and that you've really emphasized today is that it's so reasonably, excuse me, it's so reasonably priced. The remedies themselves, I don't know how much, they're under $20, maybe even under $10 often.
It's $6 to $9 a
Yeah,
Bluetooth from Boiron, or this whole kit right here is like 73 for
yeah.
36 remedies. Not
And
bad.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's all very reasonable.
Mhm.
And one of the ways I'll just mention another remedy since we're in cold and flu season. I haven't taken this in a while, knock on wood. knock on-
Yeah.
but because I haven't had flu in a while. But when I was younger, I used to get, flu more often. And I took, we were calling it Osseo, and it's OSSIO, and then it's got a lot more letters. And that's a popular remedy that you can find in any health food store. Maybe tell everybody a little bit about that remedy. Yeah, she's holding it up and it's, I don't know if we can read it, but you could spell it out for us.
You don't have to know how to pronounce
Yeah.
it. I just
Okay.
call it Oscillo, O
Oscillo. Okay.
Oscillo, but Oscillococcinum is how to pronounce it completely. Don't worry about it if you don't, but it's these little tiny vials that you get in the store that is meant for the minute, literally the minute you start to feel like you're coming down with something. And so they say to take a whole tube of it is what they're suggesting. And I found that you don't need the whole tube. You just need the cap. You just fill the cap with pellets and put that under your tongue, and that's enough. So you don't have to use a whole tube. And you just take it every few hours in the hopes that it could stem any kind of an illness coming on. It happens. It does help sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't, but it's harmless to try. So it's
And
from
I remember using it a lot. Probably I was burning the candle on both ends a lot during that time,
yeah.
and my body was depleted, and I started to come down with symptoms. I remember distinctly, if I took it at the right moment, it would really stop flu in its tracks. And
Hmm.
then yeah, I think later I started taking better care of myself, and then I would notice that if I didn't take if I had that on hand and I could take it in the moment, it really helped me with any kind of flu symptoms. So I just wanted to stress that for anybody who is, concerned and needs to keep themselves healthy during the cold and flu season. So
Yeah.
um,
And it's to be taken the minute you think you're getting sick. You don't want to wait. If you're thinking,
yeah,
well, it might not be, like, just take it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
for
Mm.
that reason, I think it's also really great for older adults and anyone, because I remember with my son being very attuned, like I thought, oh, I think he's coming down with something. As a mother, I could kind of tell something was off, but he didn't have that, embodied awareness. And he would be like, oh, I don't know. Um, and then he would end up getting something. So I think we all have those little very subtle feelings, like a tickle in our throat, or we feel just slightly achy, and
Mhm.
that's when you want to take it. So
Yeah.
again, attuning to those subtle signs is very, very powerful. This has been so amazing. I'm wondering, can we get your book on Amazon, or where can we buy your book?
So the book just came out in August, and we're still trying to kind of get the book out in the world. So we haven't put it on Amazon yet. It is available directly from the website Homeopathy Primer, Primer.com. Right now, I don't know when this is coming out, but there is a discount for the next week. On the website, it just has it up there. And come back to the website, even if it's after that time, that you might find different sales, because we're doing them every few months. We'll put out a discount code. But we also have codes for people that are running study groups. If someone wants to run a study group and they have 10 people or more, we'll give them a really good discount for that. So yeah, so homeopathyprimer.com. Check it out. Take a look. You'll see samples of what the book looks like on the inside. Another podcast that I had done with another homeopath to talk about the book itself. There's stuff on there that people can definitely learn from. So, yeah.
Could you describe what a study group is? Because you mentioned that earlier, and I was wondering, could a layperson do that, or do you need to be a homeopath, or?
No, I want lay people. Basically, so this book, Homeopathy Primer, it's meant to get people started using homeopathy. So I've been running study groups now for 5 or 6 years, and I've had people stay with me through all the years. And we started the first 2 years, we're basically going through all of the things that are in the Homeopathy Primer book. It could be from stomach bugs to constipation to flus to colds to coughs to headaches, all the stuff, and to learn all about the remedies and to get the understanding of homeopathy. So it's really a basic course where most of the people come in with little to not much knowledge, or they just want some, as they're going along. And so we meet monthly typically, and it's just a really great way for people to learn. That's kind of my passion, is to help people learn.
Yeah, you are. Oh, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
before we end this, I have a question.
Yeah.
Does holistic medicine and homeopathy go together, or are they two different modalities?
Whenever you say holistic, any modality that encompasses the whole person is holistic. So
Okay.
you could call naturopathy, homeopathy, I would even call massage therapy holistic, because it's using all the different parts of who we are in a more natural way. So yeah, it's holistic for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to send you an email, Abby, and I want our listeners to know this because well, I've had another guest on another show who is a holistic health practitioner. And I
Mhm.
think the two of you
Oh, okay.
be together would just like enhance another show for Elise. That there's so much information out there, because so many things I'm hearing you talk about are
Hmm.
sort of the things that she talks about.
Hmm.
And it's like, ever since I've met her, I have changed so much about myself. The only thing I haven't changed is my 1 cup of coffee a day.
Coffee.
Um,
Yeah.
and I usually have that because I wake up every morning with a migraine, and my migraine medication causes other problems. But as we were
Mhm.
talking, I was also Googling homeopathic options for migraines.
Yes, good,
Um,
good. Hmm.
I think I'm gonna, come up with some of those and maybe get rid of my coffee, which would be a good thing. I'd save a little bit of money.
Cafe accruta could help with if the migraines are caused by a lack of caffeine, it could help with that. But that's not the only thing. But
Right.
yeah. But good for you. Yeah, you learn from, I'm sure, all your guests here, which is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Elise, I will introduce you to Lori as well when I send
Mhm.
the email out, because I think that would be another great show for us to have, especially with the new year coming up. People want to feel good.
You
And
do.
I feel good. Yeah. I
And
think
they all,
of that whole person, to me, yoga is also a holistic healing
yes,
modality. And I've been doing yoga for, we'll say like 30, 40 years. So I know the benefits of how that helps you to age well. And I think that's the message I want to get out
Mhm.
to our listeners, that we need these modalities that address the whole person and the subtle distinctions, as you said, the puzzle piece, which was so beautifully described. It's
Mm.
been such a pleasure to have you on. I want to give space for any final words, but I also wanted to mention, please keep us in touch. I think you said you were doing a study group on dementia or cognitive decline, and anything you learn in that study, or I'm not sure, I just can't remember. In the beginning of the interview, we touched on that. And I think, hearing about the results or what you're finding in the field would be of great value to our listeners. So keep in touch so we can.
Give me some time to work with people, but
Oh, of
maybe
course,
within a
yeah.
year or so, I'll come up with some possible good
Well,
things that would
Yeah,
be helpful for people.
that gives
Sure.
us a little bookmark. A year
Yeah.
from now, we'll be talking to you and see
Okay.
what happened. Keep in touch.
That would be
Anything
great.
either of you want to underline, underscore, or just celebrate our wonderful guest today?
Well, it's been wonderful having both of you, and we
You.
wish everybody a happy holiday season. Take care now.
Mm.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Keep on
Thank you.
super.